velvet rope. Let's just get right into it because we are joined both in Los Angeles, California. The one, the only Sarah Fraser.
David, I can't believe you are finally here in La La Land. I am so excited. Don't you love LA? There is such a vibe. And I will not even say the names of the podcasters, but there are some well-known New York podcasters who have moved out here. And I just want to say, I don't know. I've always had this thing like I can feel trends. I always can feel trends in things. Like I started my podcast 6 years ago. I knew podcasting was going to be hot. And people were like, people in the radio industry, because I was in radio for years, would call me and be like, this is such a bad move for you. This is career suicide. Why would you launch a podcast? Nobody's doing this. No one knows where to find it. And I'll tell you what, all those motherfuckers, all of them now have podcasts, every single one. And they claim, oh, I'm launching an app and I'm online radio host. Bullshit. You're a podcaster because radio is finally dead. And I knew it then. And I'll just say this now. Something is in the air. LA is popping for entertainment, for podcast. It's just where you need to be. That's my move here.
Okay, everyone, first of all, take a breath. Second of all, no. I mean, and I don't mean any insult to Jizzy, to Candy Gal, to the Grand Dame. You moved from the DMV area. So listen, I think compared to, DC, where the president lives, maybe Teresa doesn't understand that, but that's where the president, where you move from a land of politics. So I do think this is probably, I get why you're so excited about the vibe. Now, let me say a few things. Love it. I love it. Here's the deal. Here's my plan. Now I know I've been here for 3 days, but I have a whole plan. I do think I'm going to be getting an apartment here, to be honest with you. So I think, you know what this is? You know what this is? This is like high school for the entertainment business.
It is. It's literally live 90210. And it's so funny you say that about the DC comparison. It is true. It's like, even if I had moved to Long Island, that would have had more entertainment than DC was so good to me for so many years. And it's such a good radio market to start, but it's not an entertainment town. And they try over the years, everybody and their mom has tried to make it an entertainment town. And I've said it a bazillion times on our show together. I will always have the utmost, even higher than Beverly Hills respect for the Potomac women because they're the only ones in the history of reality TV or even entertainment television in Washington who have been able to carry a show for 7 seasons. Nobody else has done. Howard Stern did it on the radio, but I'm talking not on television.
Well, guess what? One season I had on Mary Amos, Linda Urkelishin. I had the DC gals on the podcast here. So go and find those episodes, guys. I see what you're saying. I do love it. You are right. Listen, here's the bottom line of what is going to happen here. January, February, March, and April, I will live in LA. May, June, July, August, and September, I will live in the Hamptons. Sorry. October, November, and December, I will live in New York. That is my new plan in life. Yes, I've decided all this. This is how I work here, guys. I go fast. I've decided all of this after being here for 3 days. I mean, I also know a lot of people here. It's not like I've already seen a friend. He took me to Target. I had to stock up on the house. I mean, I had to stock up for the house.
P.S. You and I are going to meet in person for the first time this coming Friday. So everyone's going to have to tune into next week's episode because we're like, are we going to like each other? Do we have amazing chemistry in real life or is it only over Zoom?
Let me tell you something. I do these in-person. I got some in-persons coming up, guys. You do these in-persons in the studio with these Bravo celebrities. Some of them are not. It's like, I swear to you, it's such a different vibe, guys.
It is.
It's a different vibe, but it's not always a great vibe.
Correct.
It's not always a great vibe. I can't explain it. Listen, I'm also not really myself. Like I'm a professional when I'm working, when I do the interviews. Here, I'm a sloppy, disgusting mess. I might as well be drunk, but I'm not. But like when I do the interviews, it really isn't about me. So like I'm on time. Oh, do you know that I book a studio? When I book the studio, I always book it for 2 hours when I do like a 1 hour show because nobody Housewives, especially, nobody is on time. Nobody. So the first time I didn't do that, I had like a housewife show up like 30 minutes late. And I'm like, we're not doing a 30-minute show, but now the studio's not available. It was a mess. So I do 2 hours. It costs a little extra money this way. I'm not thrilled.
That's such a great point that you bring up. Don't you think it is hard? It's almost like you have to make a choice in a little bit of a way if you're going to do Zoom interviews or in person, because isn't the in person, it's like you have to match their energy. If you're high and they're low, you kind of have to try to bring them. It's very weird, isn't it, in real life when you interview, semi-famous, famous people?
Yeah, it's just, it's not, look, I have a bunch coming up because look at, I mean, especially in New York. And now that I'm here, I've put out, my team has told everybody, like, we can do it in person this month while he's there, blah, blah, blah. Listen, I always want to give that choice to somebody. I like, let me put it this way. I love the concept of an in-person interview. I love the concept, but you dress up, you look nice, but yeah, it's not my favorite vibe. I'll be honest. I haven't had one yet. Like, let me say this. After every in-person I've done, I've never been like, wow. I think I did Bronwyn in person, and that was just maybe because I knew her before a little bit. Everyone else, all the others, I was like, was that good or was that not good? And then people listen and they're like, that was great. And I'm like, okay, as long as this audience loved it. I feel weird a lot, right?
Oh my God. And I was going to ask you, do you feel, because I love your interviews so much, you're such an incredible interviewer. Do you find though it's harder to ask them some of the difficult questions face to face, like in person versus over? Because Zoom, you just have this great barrier. It's like, it could be like, oops, I lost connection, and then like come back, how do you feel?
It's maybe a little harder. It's like I run a mile a minute. So like, I'm not always like, it's more to me, like I have my notes in front of me. It's just more of like, girl, you got to like figure this out a little bit, but it is a little harder. It's actually a little harder to ask these questions of like, when you like, we're holding her head down on the table, Candy Gal and Monique, how was that? Like things like that. You're just like,
and I think it's always harder to ask people to their face about scandals, financial ruin. I mean, like Tamra and Kelly Dodd. I mean, if I were interviewing Tamra in person, I would want to know the details about this CBD company, which seems like she and Eddie really don't own.
Listen, so this all started by at BravoCon, I believe, right? I think the actual question they asked Tamra is, who would you like to not see back on the OC? I think that was the exact question, something like that. And I'm paraphrasing, and she said Kelly Dodd. Now, here's the thing that we all know about Kelly Dodd, because I've been on the receiving end. Kelly is, listen, I will say it again. I understand Kelly. I like Kelly. I like Rick. I feel authenticity with Kelly because she goes from like hot to cold. Like, do you know what I'm saying? Like Kelly wears her emotions on her sleeve. And I like that. According to you, Sarah Fraser, you're either of the people or